Kentucky's Voice is your home for real news, real people, and real answers. But we can't do it without you. Your financial support helps us bring truth to the forefront, hold leaders accountable, and give a voice to the people of the Commonwealth. Join the fight today. Give online at kyvoice.org or text KYVoice to 53555. Every gift makes a difference. Stand with us. Speak up. Stay strong. You are Kentucky's voice.
Are you ready to stand for truth? Kentucky is at a crossroads, and we need voices that won't back down. This is your moment to rise, speak up, and be part of a movement that's changing the narrative in the Commonwealth. Kentucky's Voice is calling on bold citizen journalists, fearless editors, and those unafraid to speak truth in the public square. Volunteer, intern, contribute. Scan the QR code or visit kyvoice.org to join the fight. This is more than media. This is your moment. You are Kentucky's voice.
Open borders, shameful abandonment, disregard for human life, the prospect of more mandates and lockdowns, and the list goes on. Now more than ever, we need to stick together. Voting alone is not enough. We must use our dollars to support like-minded companies that fight for our rights and beliefs. Patriot Mobile is America's only Christian conservative wireless provider who shares your values. Last year, we gave more than $500,000 to conservative causes. With your support, we'll give more than $1.5 million this year. It's time to band together and support companies that truly love America and fight for our freedoms. Will you join us?
Kentucky's Voice is your home for real news, real people, and real answers. But we can't do it without you. Your financial support helps us bring truth to the forefront, hold leaders accountable, and give a voice to the people of the Commonwealth. Join the fight today. Give online at kyvoice.org or text KYVoice to 53555. Every gift makes a difference. Stand with us. Speak up. Stay strong. You are Kentucky's voice.
Are you ready to stand for truth? Kentucky is at a crossroads, and we need voices that won't back down. This is your moment to rise, speak up, and be part of a movement that's changing the narrative in the Commonwealth. Kentucky's Voice is calling on bold citizen journalists, fearless editors, and those unafraid to speak truth in the public square. Volunteer, intern, contribute. Scan the QR code or visit kyvoice.org to join the fight. This is more than media. This is your moment. You are Kentucky's voice.
Open borders, shameful abandonment, disregard for human life, the prospect of more mandates and lockdowns, and the list goes on. Now more than ever, we need to stick together. Voting alone is not enough. We must use our dollars to support like-minded companies that fight for our rights and beliefs. Patriot Mobile is America's only Christian conservative wireless provider who shares your values. Last year, we gave more than $500,000 to conservative causes. With your support, we'll give more than $1.5 million this year. It's time to band together and support companies that truly love America and fight for our freedoms. Will you join us?
This is Kentucky's Voice Radio, covering the latest state and local issues with Tom Fallbush, Bob Scott, and Jim Waters.
Good morning, Kentucky. Good morning, Kentucky. You're listening to Kentucky's Voice. We have a jam-packed show that you are absolutely not going to want to miss. I'm your host today, Bob Scott, here with my co-host for the day, Vlad Aguilera. Vlad, of course, has been on the program many times. He's a proud Cuban refugee and outspoken conservative voice in our area. We also have... well, let me just say this, but before we get into the show, I do want to mention a quick story that's making headlines here at home. Everybody, I'm sure, has heard about what's happened over in St. Matthews, where, thank God, police have arrested a 32-year-old man by the name of Armand Langford. He's a repeat offender, sadly, and what he did was just absolutely atrocious. He had a home invasion, abduction, and bank robbery that involving a mom and her two children. Of course, that investigation is still developing, and we'll be following it very closely here at Kentucky's Voice. But now, today's main story, you can join in the show by texting us at 502-571-0970. Again, that text line number is 502-571-0970. Or if you believe in the mission of Kentucky's Voice and want to financially support us, you can do so by going to KY Voice and texting 53555. Again, it's KY Voice. Text 53555. All righty. Our special guest today is Jeremy Harrell, a 44-year-old U.S. Army Iraq combat war veteran with a 70% VA disability rating and individual unemployability, and that's important to know that as we go on with the show. After his service, Jeremy founded a faith-based nonprofit rescuing veterans from PTSD, addiction, and homelessness. But last year, sadly, he was convicted in federal court not for profiting off the work that he did, again, the volunteer work that he did, but because prosecutors claimed his volunteer, now listen closely to this, folks, his volunteer service meant he was employable. That's outrageous. And despite the fact that, that he had more than 50 VA doctors confirming otherwise, they still, decided to prosecute him and go after him. Sadly, Jeremy did recently complete a 6-month prison sentence and is now continuing his recovery at a veterans therapy and rehabilitation facility in Atlanta, Georgia. He will be joining us live today to share his amazing story, one that raises serious questions about the Department of Justice, veterans' rights, and the weaponization of our justice system, something that President Trump sadly was well aware of. And also, my co-host today, Vlad, I just got to say this. I think our listeners are going to be floored by what they hear today. And before we get into that story, I do have a story that I want to share with everyone that was done several years ago. It was produced by the Christian Broadcasting Network, and I just want to play a small excerpt of that. If you'd go ahead and please play clip 1, I'd appreciate that.
I remember being 21 years old when I got to Iraq, and just, hoping and praying every day that I'd see 22.
Army Specialist Jeremy Harrell was deployed to the front lines when the Iraq War broke out in 2003. The miserable conditions and constant danger quickly took its toll.
I had to get to a place where I had to accept death just in case it happened so that I could quit worrying about it.
Jeremy expected the Army to be his ticket out of a childhood of poverty and abuse. But the realities of war forced that trauma back to the surface.
My childhood was almost like a combat zone because I'm feeling some of these same emotions. I often felt like a burden. There was feelings of being unloved in that as well because, you know, when you feel like you're a burden, you don't feel love.
So, fresh out of high school, Jeremy escaped to the Army. In boot camp, he had structure, stability, and 3 meals a day.
The feelings that it brought to me was the feeling of belonging, the feeling of purpose. I felt important. For the first time in my life, I felt needed.
While there, Jeremy also accepted Jesus Christ into his heart. Throughout boot camp, he drew closer to God. But after he deployed to Iraq, he became overwhelmed by the brutality and ugliness of war.
I had a moment out in the middle of the desert that I'm not very proud of, but I remember screaming at the top of my lungs, really cursing God and saying, if you're so powerful, if you really are sovereign over everything, then why this?
Doubts continued to plague him over his 15-month tour. When he finally returned home, Jeremy didn't recognize himself.
I just noticed I was different. I noticed that I become more of a person who liked to isolate. I come home with residual anger, and I really struggled to.
Yeah, and of course that's Iraq War veteran Jeremy Harrell was sharing his story on the Christian Broadcast Network. Just an amazing story of how, it says in Romans 8:28, God works all things together for good to those who love him and are called according to his purpose. But, at that time, and by the way, let me just go ahead and welcome Jeremy Harrell onto the program today. And of course,
Morning,
my
Jeremy.
co-host today, Vlad Aguilar, as well. And man, I'm excited about this because we have a lot to share, in a relatively short period of time. You're currently, as I mentioned at the start of the show, down in Atlanta at a facility that evaluates and determines, where you're at with regard to the PTSD. You have a 70% rating right now. How on earth you did not get 100% rate? In fact, had you gotten 100% rating, at the start, we wouldn't be sitting here right now, because there wouldn't be any question that you had the right to go ahead and do what you did, which was, obviously, starting a wonderful organization. But again, before we get to that, I keep trying to jump ahead of myself. I guess my question to you, I got to ask you, how does a veteran who proudly served our country, and then on top of that, gets out of the service and has a dramatic revelation, if you will, of the need that's out there, and decides to start an organization that's had really not only a statewide impact but a national impact? How do you go from basically being a volunteer and volunteering to prison? How does that happen?
Bob, that's the million-dollar question that me and a lot of people in this country are really trying to figure out, because it doesn't make any sense at all. And the reality is, my goal was to help myself, and in doing so, to help others in the process. The things that we do, that I did at Veterans Club, was therapeutic in nature. The whole premise behind the organization was that we would be a community within a community that would help each other through any kind of challenge, whether it's mental health, whether it's addiction, whether it's just transitional issues, whatever it was. I just wanted to develop that community of like-minded individuals to support one another as we go through life. And I can't, when I sit back and think about the reason we started the organization and the cause of my ministry, I can't find a reason that a practical reason that they would come after me for doing that. I mean, I would think that it would be celebrated that a veteran who is, while in the middle of their brokenness, would be motivated to go help other people who are broken. And you would think that would be encouraged. In fact, it is at the VA in the mental health side. They encourage people to go do exactly what I did. And for me to go to prison for it, it just raises a lot of questions.
Yeah, it sure does. And again, Jeremy, what led to them just giving you a 70% VA disability rating with individual unemployability? Okay, that's an important factor in this too. And
right,
what does that actually mean in day-to-day life?
Yeah, so it's really bizarre, and 70% obviously is not total impairment. 100% is total impairment, but you could be 100%. You can be 100% and permanent and total and be able to run $1 million business, or you could be, for example, a chief of police. I know guys who do that. But if you're 70% and considered unemployability, then they expect you not to do anything. But one thing they didn't tell me I couldn't do was volunteer. And there's no rule or law against that in VA policy anywhere. Who would know that they would make up this law just for my case specifically? So it's just bizarre that 100% you can do whatever, 70%, which is not totally impaired, you can't do anything. It's really bizarre.
Yeah, it really is. And we will be right back with more of Kentucky's Voice. Be sure to stay tuned. My special guest today is Jeremy Harrell, and my co-host is Vlad Aguilar.
Are you ready to stand for truth? Kentucky is at a crossroads, and we need voices that won't back down. This is your moment to rise, speak up, and be part of a movement that's changing the narrative in the Commonwealth. Kentucky's Voice is calling on bold citizen journalists, fearless editors, and those unafraid to speak truth in the public square. Volunteer, intern, contribute. Scan the QR code or visit kyvoice.org to join the fight. This is more than media. This is your moment. You are Kentucky's voice.
Back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
Yes, indeed. Welcome back to Kentucky's Voice. I'm Bob Scott. My special co-host today is Vlad Aguilar, and our very special guest is Jeremy Harrell, former veteran, well, always a veteran, I should say, but combat veteran. Served over and ended up honestly with PTSD. And getting back to your very dramatic story, Jeremy, you weren't taking a salary. Yet the Department of Justice claimed your volunteer work proved employability. Again, emphasis on the word volunteer. I mean, how much more do you need to have that spelled out? But they were trying to make that claim. And how do you make a leap of on that? And then and they did though. They made that leap, and we're going to learn the reason why, folks. At least what appears to be the reason why. And what was your reaction, Jeremy, when you heard? I'm jumping forward to you had the trial, heard the jury verdict that said you were guilty. Did it feel like they were convicting you of something different other than what was charged?
Yeah, absolutely. When I heard the verdict of guilty, I immediately transitioned from my mind of being prosecuted to persecuted. Because I never thought in a million years. My first thought actually was, how does this happen in America? How does someone who has served this country come home and continue to serve his country the way that he could, which is helping his brothers and sisters in arms for free? I didn't enrich myself. I didn't get any perks or benefits. How in the world could that be considered criminal? It was just disappointing. And of course, when guilty was read, it was my wife, just sighing. It just took her breath away. And I'll never forget how that sounded. And my kids obviously breaking down, crying, not understanding that, when it comes to faith, being obedient to the word is loving, Jesus, obviously, with all your heart, your mind, your soul, but then loving your neighbor as yourself. And that's exactly what I was doing and others at Veterans Club was doing. How in the world can that be criminal in this country when you think about everything that's going on in this country, all the things that we don't prosecute that we should, and the next thing you know, you've got a guy who's just basically utilizing the time that he has to continue his efforts in helping the community and being an asset in the country we live in. And so I was very disappointed, heartbroken, and just angry, honestly, that there were so many times throughout the trial, Bob, that really spelled out innocence. There was nothing I ever received from the VA that said that I couldn't volunteer, that I was doing anything wrong. The agent admitted to that. Additionally, I didn't take any money from the organization. They tried to say that it was work instead of volunteerism, but the VA don't have a definition of what they consider work. So how could they hold me to a standard that I was working when they don't have a definition? So that's just one of few, but it was heart-wrenching to hear that verdict.
And that's especially what I want to jump in, because I feel Jeremy frustration, of course, because I'm a Cuban, so that's exactly what we have in Cuba. When you just criticize the government, or you say something against them, at some point they're going to try to lead you to jail. They're going to find any excuses, like the same way they did with you. And I have to remark, I was surprised, very surprised, when they called me for this show, and they told me about your history. I say, what do you mean? I met Jeremy like a few years ago. I was part of the filming crew for Salute to Veterans show for the one of the national television, and I felt firsthand the experience there with all his brothers and all the veterans with the PTSD traumas and all of that, and all the therapies they get with the horses and all of that. And I couldn't believe that Jeremy, a guy who put his life in danger for this country, it was in jail. Like, what do you mean? This is insane. This is part of what the times we are living in.
And that's right, Vlad. It's gut wrenching. This is the kind of thing, as you mentioned, happens in communist Cuba.
Yes.
It should never, ever in a million years be happening in our country. In fact, folks, if you want to join the show today, you can do so by texting us at 502-571-0970. Again, that text line number is 502-571-0970. Or if you believe in the mission of Kentucky's Voice and want to financially support us, you can do so by texting us at KY Voice 53555. And in fact, I guess getting back to the point that Vladimir was making, Jeremy, you said this investigation started not long after you had criticized the Biden administration's Afghanistan withdrawal and were floated as a Republican state Senate candidate. How do you connect those dots?
Yeah, I mean, it was all in that time period. You know, I still consider to this day the Afghanistan withdrawal the biggest botched military operation in history. Second, you know, to Saigon in 1979. It was just terrible. I mean, everything that we left there that now the enemy uses against us. The way, you know, the innocent 13 service members who died at the gate. I mean, just a terrible operation. And yeah, I did criticize that, and it impacted a lot of veterans, and not just Afghanistan, Iraq veterans, but also Vietnam veterans, because it reminded them of what happened in Saigon, and so we had to create a support group so big that we had to borrow space at Southeast Christian Church in Louisville, one of the biggest churches in the country, in order to fit everybody in there, because it was such a detrimental situation. And then there were a lot of people that wanted me to run for office. And my response at that time was, you know, I like what I'm doing at Veterans Club, and I wouldn't want any veteran not to come seek help with us because of a party affiliation. So I said, you know, I have plenty of time to do that when the time's right, but now's not the right time. But just because, you know, there was so much buzz going around about it, and I was gaining so much popularity in the political arena, and I had a lot of endorsements from a lot of, you know, powerful political figures in this country in D.C., I become a target. As an evangelical Christian conservative, that wasn't what they wanted under the Biden administration.
No, absolutely not. In fact, it's been well publicized, the lawfare trend that happened not only with our president, again, the president of the United States, but where they actually use the legal system to punish political opponents. And this is something, again, Republican or Democrat, it should never, ever, ever be seen in America. And that's what's concerning about this. And I know that, and we'll get into a little bit of deeper story where you're at, because they're continuing, you feel, the persecution. It looks that way. I mean, and you even started a GoFundMe page to kind of help you. And we'll talk the reason why the next segment. That GoFundMe page is important to you right now, especially. But would you share that if somebody wants to give to your GoFundMe, how they can do that?
Yeah. So one of my good friends and very supportive people in my life, Savannah Crisley, who we know from the TV show Reality Star and criminal justice advocate, she was very disgusted by this. She's been disgusted about the whole situation, and so she started a GoFundMe for my wife, because not only did they take my money, they took my wife's money, which is unfair to her. She is not a co-defendant in this case. She is not part of the case. She has broken no law, and they do not care. And that's their words. They do not care that her money was also in that account. But while sitting here getting treatment in Atlanta for the very same disabilities that they put me in prison for, they literally seized our bank account, leaving us with $30 in our bank account. No notice, no warning. They just did it. And a lot of that money, because I hadn't been receiving income because they've been taking it since this happened, was my wife's, and that's infuriating.
Well, coming up, Jeremy may be out of prison now, but his fight is far from over. We'll talk about his rehabilitation in Atlanta and the irony of being treated for the same disabilities used against him in a court of law. You don't want to stay tuned. We'll be right back with Kentucky's Voice.
back to Kentucky's Voice Radio online at kyvoice.org.
Well, thank you for tuning in today to Kentucky's Voice, live on WGTK 970 here in Louisville, but we also are recording for a later replay on WBNA Channel 21, also on TV here in Louisville as well. Our guest today is a good friend. I got to, full disclosure here, Jeremy actually lives in my neighborhood. I didn't know I had such a